You have an ex, they have an ex. Here are the 4 things you must know. The first one being, did you know that studies have proven 95% of all repeat relationships, aka spinning the block, have confirmed and let us know emphatically that they are actually unhappy. We're going to unpack that. Number 2, who ended the relationship is critical. Whether it was your partner or their ex, that has a lot that we need to consider. Number 3, healthy boundaries for exes. Yeah, we're going to really go there. And then last but not least, the worst circumstance is the orbiting ex and how to deal with them. So let's jump straight to it. When we talk about studies confirming and proving that 95% of all repeat relationships, those who are in them, the spun the block relationships, confirm and report that they are actually unhappy with the relationship, I am not talking about temporary breakups. Now, you say, Shaun, how do I quantify a temporary breakup, right? If the two of you have had to go maybe some days of silence or maybe even a few weeks to maybe work through a circumstance, assuming that it's a serious situation, there may be a moment in any healthy relationship where both need to review and reflect and essentially determine if it's a serious circumstance. After 21 days, is this a go or a no? Why do I say 21 days? Because again, data proves it takes 21 days or 3 weeks to make a new habit. I'm not talking about temporary breakups. But if you have been broken up with someone 3 months, 30 weeks, 3 years, dude, ma'am, it's over. It's dead. Move on. And that is extremely healthy when you really unpack the data. See, here's the thing. Truth is controversial. Only people lie, numbers don't. And so that tells us everything about everything, right? Because as a man of principle, as a man of wisdom, it is wise that I understand, right, the principles of things so that I can make sound, wise decisions. And here's the fact. Studies have proven that 95% of all people who repeat a relationship or spin the block, as they call it, confirm or state that they are unhappy and that it was not a good decision. Now, I'm not the smartest man, but we're going to keep it all fact and no cap. And it's this. Let's just really think about this. All right. Let's see. All of you who are listening to this, you ever ate, a brand new cooked meal? Of course you have. Probably breakfast, lunch, and dinner, right? All right. What is it? Assuming it was something you liked, right? It was what? It was good. But I'm going to ask you a flip side question. It tells you everything about past failed relationships or people who foolishly think that it is wise or even a good idea to repeat a relationship. And I'm going to give you a graphic example. All right, that meal you ate for breakfast, lunch, or dinner, sir, if I were to vomit that meal, right, or to excrete that meal as a number 2, you know what I'm talking about, how good do you really think that meal is? I'm pausing for dramatic effect. Yep, because you never thought about it like that. If you are unwise, ma'am or sir, to think that revisiting a vomited relationship is actually going to taste good, you have bigger problems. If you think excreting as number 2, that meal you just ate, you actually are foolish enough to eat that again, you are highly unwise, good sir and ma'am. And the fact of it is, relationships are the same. I don't know about you. It is highly foolish to drive a car looking in your rearview mirror. If you're driving looking in your rearview mirror, what are you going to do? You're going to crash out. Relationships are the same as it pertains to dealing with exes. Now, why am I establishing this? Because we got to establish the foundational truth. Because you, right, being in this new relationship with your new partner, have to know the truth, not only for them, but even for you specifically. Let me give you another example. All right, let's say you're into skydiving. Let's say you want to go skydiving, and the instructor tells you, There's a 95% chance that when you jump out of this airplane, the parachute is not going to open. Are you taking those odds? If you are, you're probably foolish and unhealthy. Me, I'm good. I don't have to see if I am going to miraculously be a part of the 5%. Why? Because I have a 95% chance of dying. So too it is with a repeat spun the block relationship. I'm setting truths because I'm going somewhere. So stay with me. The point is this. You or someone you know who wants to revisit a past failed relationship, which is similar to eating your vomit and eating your number two excreted, thinks that they are going to defy the law of probability. What I would tell you is this is an unhealthy, unwise person who, for whatever reason, likes to live in insanity. Insanity is doing the same thing over and over, expecting a different result. So what I would tell you, to you listening, if you are somehow unwisely even considering revisiting a failed relationship, right, is I would challenge you not to. Why? Because that is a demonstrated reality of a low quality person. A low value person who is operating in scarcity, meaning there's 8 billion people on this planet. If the relationship didn't work the first time, the 5th time, the 10th time, the 20th time, that's called insanity. Why? Because the data already proved it, that 95% of revisited or spun the block relationships, people report that they're unhappy. Why? Because you can't eat a fresh cooked meal, aka a relationship, vomit it out or excrete it as a number two and think the meal is going to taste good again. All right. Argue with your mama. Let's move on to the next point. Number two, who ended the relationship is key. So if you are the ex who got left, that's very telling. You're the ex for a reason. And the same thing, what I would challenge each and every one of you, if you're in a new relationship, is you would be extremely wise to know you need to thoroughly evaluate why they are no longer in that relationship. If your partner is the one who left the relationship, says everything about everything more often than not. Because here's what you must understand. When people have a long-term existence with someone, especially when they have history together or have built any type of life together, for them to leave the relationship, not for another person, but to leave the relationship is the biggest sign that tells you everything about everything. Because what you don't want is what's known as an alpha widow. Today's video is not about that. I would challenge you to YouTube or Google the phrase alpha widow. But we're not talking about that today. What I want to emphasize on is who left a relationship is very critical. So you listening to this, right? If you're trying to figure out how to deal with their ex or your ex, and you're wanting to learn the 4 ways, first thing is you need to thoroughly examine both you and your partner on who left that relationship. Case in point, I've never been left by a woman. I've always moved on. Point blank, period. My future wife, she always left the situation. Why? Because that is a demonstrated value of a healthy person who is pursuing peace, what? To live, grow, expand, get bigger, get better. Because truth be told, I ain't never bought another car where that one wasn't better than the past. I've never bought or lived in a house where the one I'm in isn't better than the last one. I've never, you get the point, started a new business that wasn't better than the last one before. Or I never started a new career where the pay, the promotion opportunity wasn't better. Why? That's called healthy. That's called elevation. That's called growth. That's called wisdom. Number 3, healthy boundaries are necessary if you are going to thoroughly deal with their ex or your ex. What am I referring to as boundaries? See, healthy people, healthy organizations understand boundaries. Boundaries are, look, for your benefit, my benefit, to create a win-win. This is what we will do. This is what we won't do. An example is an employer. Running a corporation is very similar to running a relationship. If you want a healthy one, that is not chaotic. If you want to operate with decency and order, which is what? You got to work your 40 hours. You got to be here by 9 a.m. You get 2 to 4 weeks of vacation. You got to put in a request for it. If you make an expense, you need to turn in a reimbursement report, right? That's called healthy. To do anything else, to let your employees come when they want to, take vacations whenever they want to, take money out of the till, what is chaotic? I don't run my life. I don't run my business. I don't run my relationship like that. You absolutely heard what I said. I love, lead, and elevate. Point blank, period. On all days and always, all fact, no cap. Why? Because that is what healthy people do. Let me give you an example before I really dive into this healthy boundary matter. Say I am the CEO of Coca-Cola. How wise would I be to let my employee or my executive co-mingle with Pepsi? What? To share trade secrets? To share marketing agendas? To share new expansion plans? That's called foolish. So here's the thing. The good book says it. You cannot serve two masters. You will love one or hate the other. So why do boundaries exist? Because if you're a healthy person who's going to be happy, it's needed and necessary. To do the opposite is foolish, because you cannot derive greatness from chaos. It happens from what? Decency and order is what the good book says. That's how I live. So when it comes to boundaries for exes, yours and theirs, what that means is point blank period. We're not doing ex friendships. Oh, that's a no and a never. Ain't gonna be no hanging out together, coming over, going to the movies, going to dinner. That is called toxic. We ain't doing that. So again, what's the difference is this is not imposed. You don't have to follow none of them. Then that just means you get gone. Just like my employees, the hundreds that I've hired, the thousands I've interviewed. What? I have a process. I have a standard like Coca-Cola, which is this is what we doing, baby. This is what we not doing. And right, you get out of pocket, guess what? You fire yourself. And guess what? My new employee was always better than the previous employee. That's a fact. Why? Because I'm healthy. I know how to what? Attract what's right. I know how to repel what's not right for me. Through the course of time, we too need to take that position with exes. But now let me tell you the truth about the truth. What is going to happen with your ex, and most certainly with your partner's ex, when they see that there are firm boundaries that the two of you are operating by? Guess what happens? Newsflash. They get very envious. They become very jealous. Let me prove it to you. All right. The ex, because they sense these boundaries, they see these boundaries, in the ultimate form of deception and manipulation, will oftentimes tell the ex-partner, because they see these boundaries, that the new partner, aka you or me, is insecure because we are not foolish or weak enough to allow ex friendships. Why? Because it's foolish. They will call you. Yep, that's the ultimate form of gaslighting, manipulation, deception, whatever you want to call it. But why are they calling you insecure? Because you securely got the partner. Very interesting. Or call you jealous. Jealous of what? Because last time I checked, one here and the other is here. So no, good sir, good ma'am. No, what it is you're jealous. Why? Because you see the former that you know will never be a future. Through this gaslighting, manipulation, and deception, what your partner's ex is attempting to do is what they are doing is grasping at straws. What? Because they see that nothing is working. So guess what they will do? They will look for sympathy and try to obligate the partner to feel sorry. And if that ain't the weakest simp beta activity I have ever seen, I don't know what is. It's actually pathetic that because you see boundaries and you know you're no longer in the kingdom, that you call the new partner insecure. Well, no, it's because I securely have her. And no, it's because they're jealous of the new union because it's something they don't have. And so what would they do? Grasping for straws, they will tend to operate on sympathy, which is the most beta weak thing possible. What? Because they know that it's over and they can't accept it. So then let's deal with the worst set of circumstances. Your ex or your partner's ex is orbiting. What does orbiting mean? It means they are probably stalking you on social media. They are stalking the ex on social media. They're still showing up to friend events. I'm not talking about private events, but open events, right? They're still continuing to show up as evidence of a orbiting, or even the weakest thing, they are foolish enough and weak enough to like your new couple posts. Yes, I'm going to go there. Here's the thing. Last time I checked, I don't think most of us would even think that trying to have a relationship with your partner's ex is healthy, because it's not. Now, I'm not talking about being cordial. Being cordial is necessary, especially when kids are involved. But 9 times out of 10, that needs to be as simple as a hi and a bye. What? To maintain the peace for the children. But we ain't friends. We ain't never going to be friends. There's no need to be. To do such is haphazard and foolish. Why? Because yet again, the good book says it. A person cannot serve 2 masters. They will either love one and hate the other. Good book says it another way. You cannot put new wine in an old wineskin. Why? Because the new wine will make the old wineskin burst. Why? Because they're not compatible. They're not made of the same creme de la creme. And so ultimately, the notion, especially understanding that no ex relationships are meant to be in the present. Good sir, if you are in a relationship and her ex is liking you all's post, let's just be honest. I wasn't born last night. Common sense is one that gets back to the orbiting stalking, right? Common sense is very simple, which is that is not well intended. It's disingenuous, right? That is not a salute. That's an act of sabotage. What are they pathetically doing? Basically, they're trying to pop out, even though you got this couple post, right? Meaning you and your new partner, but yet the ex, whether it be his or hers, liking the post 9 times out of 10 is not for honorable reasons. It's actually dishonorable. What are they doing? They are trying to pop out through manipulation, right? And through sympathy to try to tell your ex, hey, don't forget about me. I'm still here. Now let's deal with how do we deal with that? If your ex is out of pocket, or if their ex is out of pocket, you are responsible for handling that. Meaning, if it is my ex stalking my social media, her social media, liking posts, disingenuous, looking for sympathy and all of that, or showing up at events, it is my responsibility to go talk to my ex to set the boundary of, hey, this is not okay. If it's hers, it is her responsibility to go to the ex to say, hey, look, this is how we feel. This is what it is. That's not okay. It is the ex's job to now get in line. So, assuming they do, which is the way it should happen with a healthy person, they'll get the message, move on, carry on. However, if they choose not to, now it becomes my problem. And we're going to take it all the way there. Absolutely. So what that means is I am going to initially take a lamb approach. A lamb, a little lamb. Yep. Because as a leader, there are times to be a lamb and there's times to be a lion. However, I'm going to always attempt to kill bees with honey, not vinegar. I do that professionally and personally because it's called wisdom. There's no point of making a thing that don't need to be a thing when through mature adult conversation, seeking peace, you go to that person. So what did I do and what have I done as a fact is I'm going to send you a text message, right? What? To try to extend the olive branch. Hey, I'm aware that you've been doing such and such. I'm not okay with that. It's disingenuous and not well intended. If this is something you want to talk about, feel free to call me and we can talk about it. Now, in this circumstance, I didn't know the person got a new cell phone number. However, my woman communicated. He agreed that he's no longer going to do that thing specifically. To God be the glory. However, if the ex chooses upon your lamb warning to want to take it somewhere else, then that's what we're doing. Oh yeah, absolutely. That's what we're doing. 1,000%. Which means now I'm going to have to take a lion approach. Now, What that does not mean, I want to be clear about that, is a wise man once said, don't argue with a fool, because people from a distance can't tell who's who. So if your partner has set a boundary, the ex is either going to apply to that or not. If they're unwilling to listen, now what that means is you, as their current partner, are going to deal with it in a peaceable manner, meaning as a lamb, wherein you're going to say, again, probably starting by text message. If you want to call directly as a secondary measure, absolutely. But life is busy. It's 2025. I got things to do. You got things to do. If it's even by email, whatever the case, you want to proactively attempt to resolve that thing. Now, once your piece is spoken and their piece is spoken, now you're going to have to determine if that doesn't resolve the matter. Now we're going to have to go with a line approach. What's a line approach? We're going to have to get a little more firm. What that means is going to be on a case-by-case basis. If those are issues that you're seeking to resolve or work through, what I would ask is comment, pose your question. Myself and others in the community will rally around you. If that's not enough, I have a Patreon page, Builder of People podcast on Patreon, where you can pay me for a 1-hour consultation wherein I will talk you through it, walk you through it, not only from a practical standpoint, but from a spiritual standpoint. We will come up with a game plan oriented in peace, the lamb's way, or else we're going to have to resort to a lion way as a last resort. But what we have learned is this. You have an ex, they have an ex. It's real simple. The 4 things to know is 95% of all repeat or spun to block relationships don't work. To think that you are going to be the anomaly at 5% is insane and is foolish, because ultimately it's like eating a great steak dinner, vomiting it or excreting it and thinking it's going to taste good again is the foolishness of revisiting a relationship. It's also foolish because if I'm going to jump out of an airplane and the parachute is not going to open, 95% chance, I would be foolish when we at my funeral because I already knew it wasn't going to work. Number 2, what we've arrived at is who ended the relationship is critical. Assuming, right, you as the listener ended or your partner ended that relationship tells you they ended that relationship amid the unknowns because they were pursuing peace, which is the ultimate nail in the coffin when a relationship should never happen in the future. Number 3, what we've arrived at is you have to have healthy boundaries. You have to have healthy boundaries with your ex. Your partner has to have healthy boundaries, which is there is no friendship other than what? Only if children are involved. And even that needs to be just about the children. There should be no other communication or contact. Otherwise, you or your partner are toxic and are a low value individual who's seeking what? Attention and validation because they're viewing the ex as an insurance policy, which yet again is the signal of a low value person. If your partner is in need of attention and validation from their ex and you find out, the relationship needs to be effectively over immediately. Why? Because this partner is not who you think they are. This partner is in high value of who you assume them to be. And therefore, it's a no and never. Why? Because there are 4 billion other women, 4 billion other men. I don't operate in scarcity. Anytime I replaced anything, car, house, employees, and anything in between, I've always leveled up and done better. So too should you, and I'm sure so have you. Last but not least, the orbiting X. How we deal with the orbiting X? Truth of it is they're going to use deception, manipulation, gaslighting to call you insecure and jealous. Why? Because they no longer securely have the new partner you do. No, it's because you're jealous of the relationship and you're seeking sympathy, which is what a weak beta simp does. Why? Because you don't have no other options, or your partner's ex doesn't have other options, which is yet again a low vibration, scarcity, low value mindset. Because again, they are an ex for a reason. All those things being said, while dealing with the orbiting ex who typically will stalk your social media, your ex's social media, come to events uninvited, and or will even be foolish enough to like you and your new partner's post, which is nothing but a manipulative pop-out attempt to say, hey, don't forget about me, means that it is your partner's responsibility, first and foremost, to deal with the ex. If that is ineffective, now it becomes my issue to deal with. And we're going to go all the way there. I'm going to take what? A lamb approach, meaning I'm going to come with peace. If that doesn't work, I have no choice but to be a lion. That being said, as the developer and founder of Developer Nation app, I want you to click on the link below. If you have a vision to invest and develop real estate, whether it be small scale, large scale, we want to educate you. We want to equip you. We want to immerse you and expose you to opportunities for funding under our leadership and partnership, assuming your project is viable and feasible. But understand this, we deal with professional matters and personal matters. Why? Because the better we are in our spiritual life, the better we are in our personal life, the greater we can uninhibited attack our God-given purpose, which is what we do at Developer Nation app. And so, as always, like, comment, subscribe, click the Developer Nation app below to be alerted when the app educational portion debuts. But as always, remember, all things work together for the good of those that love God and are called according to his purpose. I will see you in the next episode.